Elijah's binoculars hover over the lake, the morning mist clinging to the water like smoke. A heron glides low, its reflection rippling in the stillness. He scribbles notes. 6:12 a.m. Great blue. Heron, juvenile. His breath steady, the chill of dawn biting through his jacket. Footsteps crunch gravel behind him. He doesn't turn, but his shoulders tense. Ranger Mallory's shadow falls across his notebook, blocking the weak sunlight. "Morning," Mallory says, thumbs hooked in his belt. His voice is all false cheer. Elijah lowers the binoculars. "Quiet. Today. Too quiet." Mallory steps closer, boots scraping Elijah's field guide. "What's your business here?" Elijah's grip tightens on the pen. "Birdwatching. Migratory season." Mallory's radio crackles, a dispatcher's garbled static. He doesn't acknowledge it, eyes narrowing at Elijah's backpack. "Permit." Elijah unzips the pack slowly, pulling out a laminated card. Mallory snatches it, squinting at the dates. "Expires next month. Valid today." Mallory hands it back, lips pressed thin. "Trails only, no loitering." Elijah nods, gaze returning to the heron. The ranger lingers, boots shifting. "You're here a lot." Elijah doesn't look up. "I am." A beat. The heron takes flight, wings beating the air. Mallory's jaw twitches. He turns, radio hissing as he walks away. Elijah exhales, the sound lost in the wind. His fingers trace the permits, edge, creased, familiar, a relic of countless mornings like this. They never ask for permits at dawn, not unless you're the wrong kind of quiet. The heron circles once, then vanishes into the mist. Before the story continues, please let us know from where you are watching this video. Write your city or country in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like if you believe in stories that challenge injustice. Your engagement gives power to voices that need to be heard. The gravel crunches under Mallory's boots as he closes the distance, eyes fixed and unblinking. Elijah stands his ground, notebook in hand, posture calm but alert. Mallory's stance is rigid, hands on his hips, chest puffed, a display meant to claim space, to unsettle. "You're not from around here," Mallory says, voice low, a hint of accusation threading through. Elijah meets his stare, his reply, measured. "I've been coming here for years." The words hang between them, a quiet challenge. Mallory's jaw tightens, nostrils flaring. He shifts his weight, fists tightening at his sides. "What's your purpose?" he pressed, tone sharper now. Elijah's gaze doesn't falter. "To watch, to learn." The answer is simple, but the tension thickens, the morning air growing heavier. Mallory steps closer, shrinking the space between them. "We don't take kindly to strangers wandering off trails." Elijah's breath remains steady, but he feels the weight of every similar encounter pressing down on his chest. He folds his notebook with deliberate care, the motion slow and precise. "Follow the rules," Elijah says, voice soft but unwavering. Mallory's eyes narrow, scanning Elijah's gear, searching for something out of place. "Rules are for everyone," Mallory mutters, his stance growing even more rigid. Elijah gives a small nod, refusing to look away. Around them, the park seems to hold its breath, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird, the unspoken history that lingers in the air. Mallory's eyes flicker, a brief crack in his armor of authority, before he steps back, his voice dropping. "Just keep to the paths." Elijah watches him retreat, the ranger's silhouette outlined by the rising sun. He lifts his binoculars again, focusing on the world beyond, but the encounter lingers. Every glance, every question, a reminder. The park is not just land, it's a battleground for belonging. The mist thickens, swallowing the space between them. Mallory's voice cuts through the morning, louder now, the edge unmistakable. "You people can't just wander wherever you want." The words land heavy, echoing across the empty shoreline. Elijah's hands pause mid-motion, binoculars lowered, his face unreadable. He doesn't flinch, but the sting is real, a familiar ache. Elijah's answer is quiet, deliberate. I'm exactly where I belong. His tone is calm, but his eyes hold a storm. The ranger's jaw tightens, a muscle jumping in his cheek. Mallory glances around as if searching for backup, but the only witnesses are the birds and the wind. A jogger slows nearby, sensing the tension. She hesitates, then keeps running, gaze fixed ahead. Mallory's posture grows defensive, arms crossed, feet planted wide. "We have rules for a reason," he insists, voice strained. Elijah doesn't respond, letting the silence stretch, the accusation hanging between them. Mallory's authority wavers, the confidence from earlier slipping. He shifts his weight, clears his throat, but finds no footing. Elijah stands rooted, dignity intact, refusing to shrink. The park feels different now, its beauty dulled by the shadow of old habits. A crow calls from a branch overhead, the sound sharp and jarring. Mallory's eyes flick upward, then back to Elijah, who meets his gaze without blinking. The ranger looks away first, a brief flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. Elijah lifts his binoculars again, reclaiming his space. The moment passes, but the damage lingers. Mallory mutters under his breath, steps back, and scribbles something in his notepad, an action more for show than substance. The exchange is over, but the impact remains. Elijah's quiet resistance exposes the cracks in Mallory's authority, the truth of the system laid bare in a single, loaded sentence. The air feels heavier, the park changed, even as the sun climbs higher. Mallory's frustration simmers, his authority bruised by Elijah's steady poise. He clears his throat, voice clipped. "Let me see some identification." The words aren't a request, they're a test, a line drawn in the dirt. Elijah doesn't rush. He reaches into his jacket, movements calm, measured, refusing to show any trace of fear. He hands over his ID, fingers steady. Mallory snatches it, eyes scanning the name, the address, the photograph. "Dr. Elijah Turner," he reads aloud, as if daring the credentials to prove something. Elijah watches, silent, the weight of the moment pressing on his chest. For a brief second, Mallory's confidence falters as he registers the title, Doctor. Cyclist rides by, glancing at the scene, sensing the tension but not stopping. Mallory's grip tightens on the card, thumb rubbing the corner. He flips it over, searching for a flaw, a reason to escalate. Elijah's gaze never leaves him. "Everything seems in order," Mallory mutters, but the words are reluctant, forced through clenched teeth. He holds the ID a moment longer than necessary, then hands it back, his fingers brushing Elijah's in a fleeting, awkward contact. Elijah's hand is steady as he accepts it, sliding the card away without a word. Mallory looks for something else to question, but finds nothing. His authority, once absolute, is now exposed, dependent on rituals meant to keep certain people in their place. Elijah's dignity remains intact, his silence louder than any protest. The ranger shifts his stance, the challenge gone from his eyes, replaced by something closer to doubt. He glances at his notepad, scribbles a few words, and steps back. The park's calm returns, but the encounter lingers, the memory of exclusion settling in the space between them. Elijah turns away, shoulders straight, reclaiming the morning. The test is over, but the lesson is not forgotten. Elijah slips his ID back into his wallet, the smallest hint of a smile touching his lips. It's not a grin, more a quiet signal, a promise that the story isn't finished. Mallory misses it. Too busy pretending to write something important in his notepad, pen tapping against the page with forced authority. Mallory glances up, expecting a reaction, but Elijah is already turning away, eyes on the horizon. The ranger's posture stiffens, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. He shifts his weight, boots crunching the gravel, but the power he once held feels lighter now, slipping through his fingers. Elijah's smile lingers, unseen but heavy with meaning. He kneels by the water's edge, adjusting his binoculars, his movements unhurried. The heron returns, landing just a few feet away, unconcerned by the tension that still hangs in the air. Elijah jots a note in his journal, his hand steady, the page filling with quiet details. Mallory watches, unsure whether to approach again or retreat. He hesitates, caught in the awkward space between authority and doubt. A jogger passes, nodding to Elijah but ignoring the ranger entirely. Mallory's jaw tightens, a flush creeping up his neck. Elijah stands, brushing dirt from his knees, and glances over his shoulder. Their eyes meet for a moment. Elijah's gaze is calm, unafraid, almost challenging. Mallory looks away first, the pen in his hand now still. The morning resumes, the park slowly reclaiming its peace. But something has shifted. Elijah's silent confidence has left a mark, a warning that the old rules no longer go unchallenged. Mallory lingers a moment longer, then turns and walks away, his steps less certain than before. Elijah's smile fades, replaced by a look of quiet resolve. The storm is coming, and he's ready. Elijah sits at his kitchen table, laptop open, the soft glow of the screen illuminating his tired eyes. He scrolls through a chain of emails, each message more carefully worded than the last. Monitor high traffic zones, one reads. Increase presence near the south entrance. The language is polished, but the meaning is clear to anyone who's lived it. He forwards the emails to his colleague Maya, who replies almost instantly. They never say it outright, she types, but we know who they mean. Elijah leans back, rubbing his temples. The pattern is obvious. Minority visitors flagged, tracked, and questioned, always under the guise of routine. Maya calls, her voice low. Did you see the one about the unusual activity last Thursday? Elijah nods, even though she can't see him. That was me. I was recording finches. They both laugh, but there's no humor in it. He clicks through more messages, noting the subtle shifts in tone. We want to ensure a safe environment for all guests, one supervisor writes. Elijah highlights the phrase, knowing how often safe means watched for people like him. He saves the emails, labeling the folder evidence. A knock at the door breaks his focus. His neighbor, Mrs. Brooks, stands in the hallway, holding a printed copy of a park notice. They're asking us not to gather by the lake anymore, she says, voice trembling. Elijah takes the paper, reading the same coded phrases he's seen all morning. He thanks her, promising to look into it. As she leaves, he returns to his laptop, determination hardening in his chest. The system hides behind polite words, but the truth is there for anyone willing to read between the lines. Elijah begins drafting a letter, his fingers moving with purpose. The fight is no longer just his own. Elijah sits with Mrs. Brooks at her kitchen table, the air thick with the scent of strong coffee and quiet frustration. She slides a faded slip of paper across the table. A citation, creased and yellowed at the edges. They gave this to us last spring, she says, her voice brittle. Feeding ducks, that's all. Her husband, Mr. Brooks, sits nearby, hands folded tightly, knuckles pale. He doesn't speak, but his eyes are sharp, watching Elijah's reaction. Elijah reads the ticket, the official language cold and impersonal. Loitering, disturbing wildlife. The words are familiar, the intent unmistakable. Mrs. Brooks sighs, her shoulders slumping. We come here every week. Never had a problem. Until... She trails off, glancing at her husband. He finishes her thought, voice low. Until they hired more rangers. Young ones. Always watching. Elijah nods, understanding too well. He places the ticket next to his own folder of evidence, the pile growing. Did anyone explain why? He asks gently. Mrs. Brooks shakes her head. Just said it was the rules. No warning, no conversation. Just find and have a look. Mr. Brooks leans forward, his voice steady but tired. It's not about the ducks. Never was. Elijah meets his gaze, offering a silent promise that their story won't be buried. The clock ticks in the background, each second heavy with what's gone unsaid. Elijah tucks the ticket into his folder, careful not to crease it further. "You're not alone," he says quietly. "This isn't just happening to you." Mrs. Brooks manages a small smile, gratitude flickering in her eyes. Mr. Brooks nods, a rare moment of hope softening his features. Elijah stands, folder in hand, the weight of their story joining his own. As he leaves, the couple sits together in the afternoon light, their silence no longer resignation, but resolve. Elijah steps into the cramped research shed behind the visitor. Center, shelves lined with field guides and soil samples. Ava, the park's botanist, sits hunched over her desk, a stack of reports scattered around her. Her fingers drum nervously on a faded notebook, eyes darting to the door as Elijah enters. He offers a nod. "You said you had something for me?" Ava slides a folder across the table, her voice barely above a whisper. 3 years of invasive species data. I submitted it every quarter. Mallory marked it all overstated or inconclusive. Never made it past his desk. Elijah flips through the pages. Meticulous notes, photos, graphs. "This is thorough work," he says. Ava shrugs, a bitter smile flickering. "Didn't matter. He said I was exaggerating. Said I was too passionate for a seasonal hire." She pulls a crumpled memo from her drawer. Mallory's handwriting scrawled across the top. "Not a priority. Focus on maintenance." Elijah studies the note, jaw tightening. "Did you ever get a meeting?" Ava shakes her head. "He always had an excuse. Too busy, wrong time. Said the board wouldn't listen anyway." A maintenance worker pokes his head in, eyes flicking from Ava to Elijah. He lingers, then quietly leaves, the door clicking shut behind him. Ava sighs, gathering her papers. "I just wanted someone to care. About the plants, about the truth." Elijah places a hand on the folder. "I care, and I'll make sure others do too." Ava's shoulders relax, if only a little. "Thank you," she murmurs. "I'm tired of shouting into a void." He leaves the shed, folder tucked under his arm, the weight of Ava's work now his responsibility. Outside, the wind stirs the grass, carrying her hope a little further than before. Elijah walks the park trail with Sarah, a longtime volunteer, whose hands tremble slightly as she adjusts the pamphlets in her bag. Her eyes dart nervously toward the ranger station, then back to Elijah. "They watch us differently," she murmurs, voice low, barely above the rustling leaves. Elijah nods, sensing the weight behind her words. Sarah's gaze drops to the ground, fingers tightening around a folded flyer. "Last month I saw them question a family just for sitting on a bench. No reason given." Her voice cracks, the memory raw. "It's like we're always under a microscope." They pause beneath a towering oak, sunlight filtering through the branches. Elijah studies her, the quiet courage in her confession. "Why don't people talk about it?" he asks softly. Sarah shrugs, a tight smile flickering. Fear, exhaustion. Sometimes it feels easier to pretend it's not happening. A group of hikers passes, laughter trailing behind. Sarah watches them go, then back to Elijah. "You're the first person who listens without looking away." Her words hang between them, fragile but true. Elijah places a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll make sure it's heard. Every whisper, every story." Sarah's eyes glisten, hope mingling with years of pain. As they continue down the path, the park seems to hold its breath. The rustle of leaves, distant bird calls, the unspoken history woven into the land. The moment is small, but its impact ripples outward, a quiet defiance against the weight of silence. Elijah's resolve hardens. The fight isn't just his, it belongs to everyone who's been watched, questioned, dismissed. And now, it will no longer be ignored. Elijah sits at his desk, laptop open, cursor hovering over a video file labeled Incident North Shore. He hesitates, then presses play. The grainy footage flickers to life. Mallory's figure strides into the frame, posture rigid, jaw set. Elijah appears next, standing by the water's edge, binoculars in hand. The confrontation unfolds in silence. No sound, just movement. Mallory's finger jabs the air, his face twisted in accusation. Elijah stands motionless, eyes steady, refusing to shrink. The ranger's hand curls into a fist, knuckles whitening, before he snatches a permit from Elijah's grasp. The moment is brief, but the aggression is unmistakable. Elijah watches himself on the screen, relieving the tension in his shoulders, the effort it took not to react. He notices the way Mallory's eyes dart to the camera, a flicker of awareness crossing his face. The video ends with Mallory turning away, shoulders tight, leaving Elijah alone by the lake. He forwards the footage to Maya with a single line. This is what they don't see. Within minutes, replies flood in. Colleagues, friends, even strangers. Saw it, not surprised. Happens all the time. You handled it with grace. A local reporter calls, voice urgent. Can we use this? People need to see what's really happening. Elijah agrees, the decision both empowering and exhausting. He closes the laptop, rubbing his temples, the weight of exposure settling in. Later that night, the footage circulates online, comments pouring in. Some defend Mallory, others express outrage. Elijah scrolls through the reactions, heart pounding, knowing the narrative is out of his hands now. He stands by the window, watching the park lights flicker in the distance. 14 seconds, just enough to reveal the truth, to spark a conversation that can't be contained. The glow from Tyler Kim's phone screen illuminates his face, eyes wide as he replays the video of Elijah standing steady while Mallory's frustration boils over. Tyler's fingers tremble as he types, "They tried to shame Dr. Turner. Joke's on them." He attaches a screenshot. Elijah's calm, Mallory's aggression unmistakable. Within minutes, notifications cascade across the screen, likes, retweets, comments piling up. The hashtag #Birdwatchers Unite flashes everywhere, a digital chorus swelling behind a single quiet act of resistance. Tyler leans back, breath catching as messages pour in. Support, outrage, calls for change. Each ping is a spark, lighting up the dark. His mother stands in the doorway, worry etched into her brow. "You okay?" she asks, voice gentle. Tyler nods, barely above a whisper, "This is bigger than me." She lingers, watching him, pride and concern mixing in her eyes. Across town, Elijah scrolls through the posts, a faint smile breaking the tension in his jaw. Years of quiet endurance feel lighter, buoyed by the unexpected strength of a teenager's voice. He replies to messages from allies, organizers, even strangers. His response is calm but resolute. "We're just getting started." He types the words a promise. A local news anchor's voice fills living rooms. What started as a bird-watching incident has sparked a conversation about race, public space, and belonging. The story spreads, the city's skyline reflected in countless screens, the hashtag glowing in the night. Tyler's phone buzzes again. Another message, another story shared. He glances at his mother, then back at the screen, determination settling in his chest. The movement is alive, unstoppable, and he is part of it. Sometimes, the smallest voices carry the loudest truths, and in the quietest moments, change takes root. The park awakens under a pale dawn, hundreds gathering silently with binoculars raised. No chants, no signs, just the soft rustle of pages. As birdwatchers log species, their quiet defiance reclaiming space long denied. Elijah stands among them, calm and resolute, his eyes scanning the treetops. Around him, faces of all ages and colors reflect a shared purpose, a collective refusal to be erased. From his truck, Mallory watches, fists clenched, jaw tight. The weight of the moment presses on him, the old authority slipping like sand through fingers. He shifts uneasily, the quiet protest a mirror to his unraveling control. A young girl nudges her mother, whispering, "Look, they're all watching. They won't be ignored anymore." Elijah's gaze meets the girl's, a silent promise passing between them. The binoculars become symbols, not just tools, but shields and banners in this peaceful stand. The crowd's quiet determination is palpable, a stark contrast to the usual tension that fills the park. Elders share knowing glances, their years of endurance reflected in the steady hands that hold binoculars. Children mimic their elders, learning the language of resilience without words. Mallory's unease grows as he watches the peaceful assembly. His usual commands fall silent, replaced by a tightening grip on the steering wheel. The old ways once, unquestioned, now face a challenge that cannot be ignored. A volunteer hands Elijah a folded flyer, its bold letters proclaiming unity and justice. He accepts it with a nod, the gesture small but significant. Around them, the crowd's energy swells, a silent wave of change rolling through the park. As the sun rises higher, the city's attention turns to this quiet revolution. Reporters set up cameras, capturing the moment when the park's gates, long symbols of exclusion, begin to open. The scene closes on Elijah's calm face, eyes bright with hope and resolve. The binoculars lower briefly, then rise again, scanning the horizon for the future. The mayor sits behind her desk, shoulders tense, the city's fate stacked in thick folders before her. Her fingers hover over a bronze plaque, "Inclusive Spaces," etched in bold, the words shining in the afternoon light. She studies her reflection in the metal, seeing both hope and hypocrisy staring back. Her assistant enters quietly, placing 2 files on the desk. One bears Elijah Turner's name, environmentalist, community leader, the face of a movement. The other, Scott Mallory, ranger, the source of unrest. The mayor's eyes linger on both, weighing the cost of action against the risk of doing nothing. She leans back, the chair creaking, feeling the walls press in. Her pen hovers over a new policy document, bias training, community oversight, a promise to rebuild trust. Yet every word feels heavy, tangled in the politics of survival. She knows the city is watching, waiting for more than empty slogans. A knock interrupts her thoughts. A council member steps in, voice low, gaze unwavering. The public demands accountability. The mayor nods, her reply measured. "We must act, but carefully." The words hang in the air, a quiet warning of the backlash that change can bring. She looks again at the plaque, its message a silent dare. The city's future teeters on a razor's edge. Progress on one side, resistance on the other. Outside, traffic moves. Life continues. But inside this office, the next chapter is being written. Her hand finally moves, signing her name with a steady resolve. The first step is taken, small but irreversible. The decision will echo beyond these walls, shaping the city's story for years to come. As the council member leaves, the mayor remains, staring at the plaque, the words glowing softly in the fading light, a reminder that inclusion is more than a promise. It's a choice, and it starts here. Mallory stands alone in the staff locker room, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead. He unlocks his metal compartment, the door creaking open to reveal a jumble of old uniforms, faded park maps, and a single folded newspaper clipping tucked into the corner. He hesitates, then pulls out the yellowed article, smoothing the creases with a trembling hand. The headline reads, "Ranger Honored for Service." The photo shows Mallory's father, chest out, shaking hands with city officials. In the background, the staff is all white, their smiles stiff and formal. Mallory stares at his father's face, searching for pride, for justification, finding only a distant, unreachable past. He sits on the bench, the article spread across his knees, memories crowding in. His father's voice echoes in his mind, stern and certain. "Keep order, don't let them take over." Mallory's jaw tightens, his grip on the paper unsteady. He remembers childhood visits to the park, the unspoken rules, the lessons passed down without question. A colleague enters, glancing at Mallory, then away. The silence is thick, awkward. The man retrieves his own jacket, offers a stiff nod, and leaves without a word. Mallory folds the article, tucking it back into the locker as if hiding a secret he can't bear to face. He changes into his uniform, movements mechanical, the weight of legacy pressing on his shoulders. He pauses, hand lingering on the badge pinned to his chest, the symbol of authority now feeling cold and unfamiliar. The locker door slams shut, the sound echoing through the empty room. Mallory stands for a moment, staring at his reflection in the metal. The man looking back is older, uncertain, the edges of his confidence worn thin. He turns away, leaving the past behind, but the history follows, silent and unresolved. The town hall fills slowly, every seat claimed by faces marked with years of quiet endurance and fresh wounds. Elijah stands near the wall, notebook in hand, eyes moving from speaker to speaker as the stories begin. The air is thick with anticipation, the kind that settles before a storm. A young black teenager steps to the microphone, voice steady but eyes flickering with caution. "They followed me for blocks," he says, his words measured. "Just because I was walking home, like I was a threat." His mother sits nearby, hands clasped tight, her jaw set in silent support. Next, an elder Native American woman rises, her hands trembling as she grips the podium. "Our history is buried under this park," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "They paved over our sacred ground." No one asked. No one cared. The room falls into a heavy hush, every ear straining to catch her words. Parents share stories of warning their children, of teaching them to move carefully, to avoid drawing attention. A single mother describes the ache of watching her son's every step, the dread that follows him like a shadow. Each testimony is a thread, weaving together a tapestry of collective pain and resilience. A council member sits at the front, pen moving across a notepad, her face unreadable, but her attention absolute. In the back, a janitor pauses in the doorway, mop in hand, his eyes reflecting the room's gravity. No one speaks for a moment after each story, the quiet mark of respect and shared understanding. As the last speaker finishes, Elijah steps forward. His voice is calm, his words chosen with care. "These aren't just memories," he says.
"They're warnings. They're calls to action. We can't heal what we refuse to see." Heads nod throughout the room, a quiet determination settling over the crowd. Outside, the city exhales, the weight of unseen scars finally brought into
the light. The faces in the room, young and old, weary and hopeful, stand as proof that truth, once spoken, cannot be buried again. A fresh copy of the city's weekly paper lands on the front desk at Park headquarters, its front page dominated by a bold cartoon. Mallory's likeness is unmistakable, drawn as a gatekeeper, keys dangling from his belt, standing before a towering redwood labeled Turner. The tree's roots twist deep, breaking through barriers marked Old Rules. Staff gather around the paper, some smirking, others shifting uncomfortably. A maintenance worker, sleeves rolled, traces the cartoon's lines with a finger. Then, glances at Mallory's closed office door. "Guess they're not pulling punches anymore," he mutters, voice low. A new ranger, barely out of training, bites her lip, unsure whether to laugh or look away. Elijah, passing through on his way to a meeting, pauses at the desk. He studies the cartoon, a flicker of amusement in his eyes, but says nothing. The front desk. Clerk catches his gaze, her expression a mix of apology and relief. "It's everywhere," she whispers. "People are talking." Mallory emerges, face flushed as he catches sight of the paper. He snatches it up, scanning the image, jaw clenched. The staff's laughter fades, replaced by an uneasy quiet. Mallory tosses the paper into the recycling bin, the gesture sharp, but the cartoon's message lingers. Later, the janitor retrieves the paper, smoothing its creases and pinning it to the staff bulletin board. He steps back, arms crossed, a small smile tugging at his lips. The cartoon becomes a silent rallying cry, a reminder that the old order is under scrutiny. Throughout the day, staff pass the board, some pausing to study the cartoon, others pretending not to notice. The atmosphere shifts. Walls that once echoed, with authority now hum with the possibility of change. The pen, it seems, has cut deeper than any order ever could. Mallory's hands grip the steering wheel, knuckles pale as he pulls out of the parking lot. The city passes by in blurred streaks. Storefronts, playgrounds, faces turned away. An empty coffee cup rolls across the passenger seat, rattling with each turn, the sound oddly loud in the hush of the car. He glances at his reflection in the rearview mirror, eyes rimmed red, jaw clenched, shoulders hunched. The weight of the day presses down, heavier than his badge ever felt. Protesters line the sidewalk near the park entrance, holding binoculars and signs. Their faces are determined, their presence a wall he can't drive through. Mallory's phone buzzes on the console. He ignores it, the screen lighting up with messages he doesn't want to read. A radio host's voice cuts through the quiet, discussing Elijah Turner's speech, the town hall, the cartoon. Mallory's name spoken with a mix of pity and condemnation. He turns the volume down, but the words linger, echoing in the confined space. At a red light, a group of teens crosses the street, one pausing to stare directly at him. The look isn't angry, just tired, disappointed, as if Mallory is already history. He looks away, throat tight, wishing for invisibility. He pulls into his driveway, the house looming dark and silent. The mailbox overflows with flyers, one bearing the headline, "Community Demands Change." Mallory leaves it untouched, stepping inside and locking the door behind him. He stands in the hallway, the quiet pressing in from all sides. The world outside has shifted and he feels it, an exile in his own city. Mallory sinks onto the stairs, head in his hands, the isolation complete. The system he served has moved on, leaving him behind. The press conference room is packed, every seat taken, the air thick with expectation. Reporters adjust their microphones, eyes darting between the empty podium and the city officials lining the walls. Elijah enters, shoulders squared, gaze unwavering, his presence commanding attention without a word. Mallory hovers by the exit, jaw tight, fingers tapping an uneven rhythm on his notes. His eyes flick across the crowd, searching for a lifeline that isn't there. He wipes his brow, the gesture quick, almost furtive. The mayor sits at the front, her hands folded, expression unreadable. Elijah steps to the podium, voice steady. Dignity is not a privilege, it is a right. The words land softly, but their impact is immediate. Mallory shifts, the color draining. From his face, a reporter scribbles furiously, the sound sharp in the hush. Elijah clicks a remote. Images fill the screen behind him. Emails, photos, video stills. Each one a piece of a puzzle, the pattern of exclusion and bias impossible to ignore. He doesn't raise his voice, but the evidence speaks for itself. The room leans in. The silence, broken only by the occasional gasp or the scratch of a pen. Mallory clutches his stack of notes, knuckles white, eyes blurring over the words he'd prepared. A memory flashes, his father's voice, stern and insistent, "Control the story." But the story is out of his hands now, unraveling in real time. A journalist's gasp ripples through the crowd as a slide reveals the scope of the discrimination. The mayor's gaze meets Elijah's, a silent understanding passing between them. Mallory's grip on his chair tightens, the old order trembling beneath the weight of truth. The mayor stands, announcing new anti-bias initiatives and Mallory's suspension. The room holds its breath as Mallory pushes back his chair, avoiding Elijah's eyes, and walks out. The crowd parts, the echo of the door closing a final punctuation. The balance of power has shifted, quietly, decisively. Mallory stands just outside the press conference room, back pressed against the cool wall, breath coming in shallow bursts. The collar of his shirt sticks to his neck, damp with anxiety. He loosens his tie, fingers trembling, but the fabric only tightens, a noose he can't escape. He hears his name echo from inside, first in a reporter's question, Then in the mayor's measured reply, Mallory's hands shake as he fumbles with his notes, the pages smudged and bent from being gripped too tightly. His prepared statement, once a shield, now feels flimsy and useless. A staffer walks by offering a sympathetic glance, but not stopping. Mallory tries to steady himself, recalling his father's advice. Stay composed. Never let them see you sweat. But sweat beads on his brow, trickling down his temple. He wipes it away, frustration mounting with every failed attempt to regain composure. He listens as Elijah's calm voice filters through the door, each word a blow to Mallory's crumbling confidence. The evidence, the stories, the faces, he can't shut them out. He remembers the cartoon, the stares, the way his colleagues avoided his gaze in the hall. The room feels smaller, the air heavier. Mallory's phone vibrates in his pocket. He glances at the screen, a message from his daughter. "Dad, are you okay?" He doesn't answer, thumb hovering over the keys, unable to find the right words. The door opens, a council member stepping out, eyes meeting Mallory's for a brief, uncomfortable moment. No words are exchanged. The door swings shut again, leaving Mallory alone with the sound of his own heartbeat, loud and relentless. He straightens his tie, squares his shoulders, and prepares to re-enter, but the confidence he once wore like armor is gone. The room on the other side of the door is no longer his to command. Elijah steps to the podium, his hands steady as he adjusts the microphone. The room quiets, every eye fixed on him. He glances at the crowd, faces tense, some hopeful, others wary. He breathes in, the weight of years settling on his shoulders, and begins. "I want to thank everyone for being here, for listening." His voice is calm, unwavering. This park has always been a place of beauty, but not always a place of welcome. He pauses, letting the words land. A reporter lowers her pen, attention sharpened. Elijah continues. "I came here as a child, binoculars too big for my face. I learned to move quietly, to avoid drawing attention." He gestures to the slideshow behind him, photos of birds, children, families, and then, slowly, images of citations, complaints, and faces marked by exclusion. He doesn't raise his voice. For years, stories like mine were dismissed. We were told to be patient, to wait for change. But patience is not the same as justice. His gaze sweeps the room, meeting Mallory's eyes for a fleeting moment. Mallory looks away, fingers drumming on his folder. A council member leans forward, elbows on the table, eyes glistening. Elijah's tone softens. "This isn't just about me. It's about everyone who's been told they don't belong." He nods to an elder in the front row, her hands folded in her lap, her expression a mix of pride and sorrow. He ends, "We can't move forward if we pretend the past never happened. Today we acknowledge it, and we change it." A hush settles, the air charged with possibility. Elijah steps back, microphone still humming. The silence that follows is not empty. It's full of everything that's finally been said. Elijah clicks. The remote and the screen behind him shifts. A map of the park appears, dotted with red markers, each one a date, a location, a name. The audience leans forward, curiosity turning to unease as the pattern emerges. Elijah's voice remains steady, but his words cut deep. "These aren't just isolated incidents," he says, gesturing to the clusters of red. "Every marker is a story, someone questioned, ticketed, or turned away." He pauses, letting the weight of the evidence settle over the room. A council member's pen freezes mid-sentence, her eyes wide with realization. Elijah continues, "Notice the initials, the same ranger, the same areas, over and over." The camera zooms in on Mallory's name, repeated like a refrain. Mallory shifts in his seat, face paling, jaw clenched. The audience murmurs, the room charged with a new tension. A journalist whispers to her colleague, "How did no one see this before?" Elijah hears but doesn't respond. He flips to the next slide, photos of families, elders, and children, each paired with a citation or complaint. "This is what happens when bias goes unchecked," Elijah says, voice soft but unyielding. Mallory's hands grip his chair, knuckles white. The mayor glances his way, her expression hardening. The evidence is undeniable. No more excuses, no more hiding behind routine. Elijah's final slide lingers on the screen. Who gets to feel safe here? The question hangs in the air, unanswered but unforgettable. The audience sits in heavy quiet, the truth laid bare for all to see. He steps away from the podium, the red markers burning into memory. The system's flaws, once hidden, now exposed, in stark color. The reckoning has begun, and no one in the room can look away. The mayor's eyes meet Elijah's across the room, a silent exchange heavy with unspoken understanding. She rises, her movement deliberate, the charged stillness broken by her presence at the podium. The weight of responsibility settles on her shoulders as she speaks, voice steady but resolute. "We have failed our community," she begins, gaze sweeping the room. "But today we commit to change." Her words ripple through the crowd, each syllable a stone thrown into still water. Behind her, a screen displays new policies, mandatory bias training, community oversight committees, and transparent reporting mechanisms. The audience shifts, the air thick with anticipation and cautious hope. Mallory's face pales, his grip tightening on the armrest. The armor of denial cracks, revealing the vulnerability beneath. His eyes flicker to the mayor, then away, the realization of impending consequences dawning. A council member nods subtly, the room's energy shifting, from tension to tentative acceptance. The mayor's words echo. This is not just about one individual, but about systemic change. She signs the document on the podium. The pens scratch a quiet declaration. Cameras flash, capturing the moment that marks a turning point. Outside, the city breathes in the news, the promise of progress stirring in the streets. Inside, the old order trembles, its foundation shaken by truth and resolve. The mayor's glance lingers on Elijah, a nod of solidarity and acknowledgement. The path ahead is uncertain, but the first step has been taken. The room holds its breath, the future poised on the edge of transformation. The commitment is real, and the city senses it, a shift that cannot be reversed. The old guard feels the ground shift beneath them, while those long unheard finally see the door to change open. Elijah stands taller, the nod between them a contract, silent but binding. The crowd's quiet hope becomes a living thing, filling the room with the promise of what's to come. Mallory rises abruptly, the chair scraping loudly against the polished floor. Every head turns, a hush falling over the room. His steps echo down the corridor, each one heavier than the last, the sound of fading drumbeat of authority lost. He keeps his gaze low, refusing to meet Elijah's eyes, shoulders hunched beneath, the weight of exposure. The silence behind him is thick, a force pressing against the walls, staff and officials exchanging glances as the old power structure unravels in real time. The door swings shut with a definitive thud, the sound reverberating. Like a final verdict, outside the city's hum continues, indifferent to the collapse within these walls. Mallory's shadow stretches long across the floor, fractured and thin, a visual epitaph to a reign ending. In the hallway, a janitor pauses, mop in hand, eyes reflecting a quiet acknowledgement of change. He shakes his head slowly, a subtle smile breaking through the fatigue etched on his face. The weight of years of unspoken truths seems to lift, if only slightly. Elijah remains at the podium, calm and composed, the embodiment of resilience. His steady breath fills the room, a silent counterpoint to the chaos left behind. The crowd's attention shifts, the energy moving from confrontation to cautious hope. People begin to whisper, some nodding, others wiping away tears. The mayor stands a little taller, council members exchanging glances that signal a new chapter. Outside, protesters gather, their voices rising in a chorus of renewal. The park, once a battleground, begins to breathe again, its gates opening to a future rewritten by those who refuse to be silenced. The tension that once gripped the city loosens, replaced by a sense of possibility. The scene closes on the empty conference room, the echoes of footsteps fading, and the promise of justice lingering in the air, waiting to be claimed by those ready to step forward. Mallory stands alone in the dim hallway, back pressed against the cool plaster, breath shallow and uneven. He stares at the floor, the distant sounds of the press conference muffled by thick walls. His hands tremble as he pulls out his phone, scrolling through unanswered messages. Colleagues, family, even his supervisor. Each notification feels heavier than the last. He catches his reflection in a window, the man staring back older, smaller, stripped of certainty. A janitor pushes a cart past, pausing for a moment. Their eyes meet. The janitor's look is neither pity nor triumph, just quiet. Recognition, the kind that comes from witnessing too many endings. Mallory offers a weak nod, and the janitor moves on, mop swishing softly behind him. Mallory's voice breaks the hush, a whisper meant only for himself. "I thought I was right." The words hang in the air, fragile and defeated. He presses his fist to his mouth, fighting the urge to shout or weep. Years of training, of warnings and orders, unravel in a single confession. His phone buzzes again, a message from his daughter. "Dad, what happened? Are you okay?" He types, then deletes, unable to find the words that would make sense of his choices. The hallway feels endless, stretching away from the life he once controlled. He sinks into a bench, shoulders slumped, the weight of regret settling in. For the first time, Mallory feels the full cost of his actions. Not just the loss of a job, but the loss of trust, of legacy, of self. The system he enforced now stands as a wall he cannot climb. As footsteps echo down the corridor, Mallory lowers his head, the admission lingering, a quiet surrender in a world that has moved on. The truth, once whispered, cannot be taken back. The park gates swing open and the crowd pours in. Children skipping, elders arm in arm, families of every background carrying binoculars and field guides. Elijah stands at the center, his posture calm, eyes shining with a pride that needs no words. The air thrums with energy, a chorus of laughter and voices rising together, the sound of a community reclaiming what was always theirs. A teenager weaves through the gathering, pausing before Elijah and offering a new pair of binoculars. "For you," he says, voice trembling with excitement. Elijah accepts, the gesture small but meaningful, a symbol of trust restored. Around them, blankets unfurl on the grass, elders begin sharing stories of old marches and quiet resistance, and children point skyward, shouting the names of birds overhead. The park, once marked by tension and exclusion, now breathes with possibility. At the edge of the field, Mallory's truck sits idle, engine running. He watches the celebration from a distance, face unreadable, eyes hollow. The crowd doesn't notice him. Their focus is forward, on the mayor's voice carrying through a speaker, on the new policies announced, on the promise of change. Some in the crowd nod, others wipe away tears, the weight of history shifting as the old guard's presence fades into the background. Elijah's gaze sweeps the horizon, catching sight of a rare bird soaring above the treetops, wings wide and unafraid. He smiles, the moment quiet but charged with meaning. The camera pulls back, capturing the vibrant tapestry of faces, the open gates, the sky stretching wide with hope. The park is no longer a battleground. It's a home, a place where every step forward is a declaration of belonging. The scene closes on the flutter of wings and the hum of voices, the roar of the crowd not deafening but steady, unyielding, and full of promise for what comes next. Mallory stands in the supervisor's office, sunlight slanting through half-closed blinds. His badge feels heavier than ever, the metal cool against his palm. He turns it over, tracing the engraved numbers, remembering the pride he once felt pinning it to his chest. Now it's just a reminder of what's been lost. Trust, authority, the certainty of being right. The supervisor sits behind the desk watching quietly. No words of comfort, no condemnation, just a nod that says everything. Mallory hesitates, then places the badge on the polished wood, the sound dull and final. For a moment he wants to reach for it again, to reclaim the past, but his hand stays. At his side, a young ranger enters, pausing in the doorway. Her uniform is crisp, her eyes steady. She glances at the badge, then at Mallory, offering a respectful nod. He nods back, the gesture awkward, humility replacing the arrogance that once defined him. The supervisor slides the badge across the desk, tucking it away in a drawer already crowded with relics of those who came before. Mallory turns to leave, footsteps echoing down the hallway. The walls are lined with photographs, rangers at ceremonies, children planting trees, families gathered in celebration. He slows at a photo of Elijah leading a group of children, their faces bright with curiosity and joy. Mallory's reflection hovers in the glass, a ghost in the background. As he steps outside, the sounds of the park drift in. Laughter, birdsong, the distant murmur of community. He stands for a moment, letting the noise wash over him, then walks away, lighter but emptier. The badge, once a shield, is now just another memory, surrendered to a future he no longer controls. Inside, the supervisor opens the drawer, running a finger over the badges within. Change has come, quiet and undeniable, and the office feels different, less guarded, more open, ready for what's next. Elijah sits quietly on a weathered bench as the first rays of morning stretch across the park, painting the grass in gold. His binoculars rest in his lap, hands folded, gaze lifted to the trees, where a rare sparrow flits from branch to branch. The air is crisp, alive with the gentle chorus of birdsong, a melody that once felt distant, now close and welcoming. Children trickle in, some with parents, others in small chattering groups. They carry field guides and notebooks, faces bright with curiosity and hope. Elijah watches them, a soft smile breaking the calm of his features. A young girl pauses near him, holding up a hand-drawn map. "Is that the sparrow you talked about?" she asks. Elijah nods, pointing to the bird, his voice gentle. "That's the one. Not so rare anymore, is it?" The girl grins, running off to join her friends, their laughter weaving through the trees. Nearby, elders gather under the shade, sharing stories of marches, of quiet resistance, of the days when the park was a place to be endured, not enjoyed. Their words are soft, but their pride is unmistakable. A mother kneels beside her son, guiding his hand as he sketches a robin. The park, once a battleground of exclusion, now breathes with possibility and belonging. Elijah closes his eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of the sun and the sound of the sparrow settle over him. His thoughts drift to the past, the confrontations, the quiet humiliations, the slow, steady work of change. He opens his eyes, watching as the park fills with life, every corner alive with new beginnings. His voice, calm and reflective, echoes the lesson learned. Change doesn't roar. It whispers in every wing beat, every step forward. It lives in the quiet moments, in the courage to return, to teach, to hope. The camera pulls back, showing the open gates, the children's laughter, the sparrow soaring above. The park is no longer a battlefield. It is a home reclaimed, a promise kept, and a future wide open. Mallory sits alone at a corner booth in a dimly lit diner, the hum of quiet conversation swirling around him but never reaching his table. His fingers drum nervously on the chipped surface, eyes flicking to the glowing screen of his phone. News alerts flash. Suspension, investigation, public outcry. Each headline is a fresh bruise. The waitress refills his coffee without meeting his gaze, her movements brisk and distant. Regular patrons glance his way, whispers trailing behind him like shadows. A group at the counter falls silent as he passes, their laughter fading into uneasy murmurs. Mallory's thumb scrolls through rejection emails, each one a door closing, softly but firmly. He pauses on a message from a former colleague, the words polite but final. "We're moving in a different direction." He sets the phone down, staring into the dark brew, the steam rising like a ghost of his former authority. The diner's warmth feels like a barrier he cannot cross, a reminder of the isolation that now defines him. Outside, the city moves on, indifferent to the man who once held power here. Mallory's shoulders slump, the weight of loss pressing down. He takes a slow sip, the bitterness matching the taste of his fall. A couple at a nearby table exchange glances, their conversation hushed but pointed. Mallory catches fragments. He's lost it. No place for him anymore. The words sting, but he doesn't react. A waitress clears a nearby table, her eyes briefly meeting Mallory's. There's a flicker of sympathy, quickly masked by professional distance. He notices but says nothing. Mallory's gaze drifts to a newspaper headline on the table. "Community demands change." The words blur as he blinks, the reality settling in. He exhales, the sound swallowed by the diner's low murmur. The cold brew cools, untouched, as Mallory sits alone, a man unmoored in a world that no longer recognizes him. Elijah leads a group along the winding park path, binoculars swinging from his neck. Children dart ahead, calling out the names of birds, their voices bright and unburdened. Elders walk at the rear, sharing stories of the days when the park felt like enemy territory. The group pauses beneath a sycamore, sunlight dappling their faces. A white mother lingers at Elijah's side, her voice hesitant. I never realized how hard it was for you. For so many." She looks down, fingers twisting the strap of her bag. Elijah offers a gentle nod, his reply steady. "It's easier to see now. That matters." She smiles, relief and regret mingling in her eyes. A boy tugs at Elijah's sleeve, holding up a sketchbook filled with clumsy drawings of robins and sparrows. "Is this one right?" he asks. Elijah crouches to look, his encouragement soft but sincere. "That's perfect. You've got the eye." The boy beams, pride lighting his face. Laughter ripples through the group as an elder mimics a bird call, the sound answered by a mockingbird in the branches above. The tension that once haunted these gatherings is gone, replaced by easy conversation and shared discovery. A teenager snaps a photo, capturing the moment. A community, once fractured, walking together. Elijah glances back, catching the eye of a former critic now trailing behind, uncertain but present. He offers a nod, and the man nods back, a silent truce forming in the space between them. The path curves, opening onto a meadow where blankets are spread and baskets unpacked. Stories flow with the passing of sandwiches, old wounds aired and eased by laughter. As the sun climbs, the birdwalk becomes more than an outing. It's a celebration, a reclamation of space and belonging. The park, once a place of quiet pain, now rings with joy and second chances. A crowd gathers at the heart of the park, sunlight glinting off the polished bronze plaque draped in deep blue cloth. City officials stand in a semicircle, the mayor at the center, her expression solemn but proud. Elijah stands nearby, surrounded by children and elders, his posture relaxed, but his eyes shining with anticipation. The mayor steps forward, her voice carrying across the hush. "Today we honor not just a man, but a movement, a community that demands to be seen, to be heard, to belong." She gestures to Elijah, inviting him to join her. He does, his steps steady, the crowd's applause swelling around him. A hush falls as the mayor pulls away the cloth, revealing the plaque. The inscription reads, "In recognition of Dr. Elijah Turner and all who reclaimed this park for everyone." The words catch the light, casting reflections onto the faces gathered close. A young black ranger, newly appointed, adjusts her hat, her smile radiant, a living testament to the change now rooted in this place. Children press forward to touch the plaque, their fingers tracing the letters. Elders wipe away tears, some clutching each other's hands. Elijah's gaze lingers on the crowd, seeing the hope, the pride, the relief. A city official hands him a copy of the new policy document, the stamp, approved, bold and unmistakable. Elijah accepts it, his grip firm. A reporter snaps photos, capturing the moment for the morning news. The mayor leans in, her voice low but clear. "This is only the beginning. Hold us to it." Elijah nods, the promise understood. As the ceremony ends, the crowd disperses into laughter and conversation, the park alive with possibility. The plaque remains, bronze words gleaming in the sun, a permanent reminder that change, once demanded, can never be taken back. Mallory steps onto the cracked pavement of his neighborhood street, the weight of recent events pressing down like heavy summer air. Neighbors on the opposite side pause, their bodies shifting away, crossing the street with deliberate care. A child tugs at her mother's hand, whispering a question that hangs in the stillness. Why is that man alone? The mother's eyes flicker with a mix of caution and sorrow as she gently steers her child away. Mallory's footsteps echo hollowly, each step a reminder of the isolation now defining him. His shadow stretches long and thin, fractured by the uneven sidewalk, a visual metaphor for his eroded influence and fractured identity. The street, once familiar and welcoming, feels foreign, marked by the quiet verdict of a community choosing distance over confrontation. A neighbor leans on her porch railing, eyes averted but her posture tense. She exchanges a glance with another, a silent conversation of shared judgment and unspoken history. The air is thick with the weight of exclusion, the kind that doesn't need words to be understood. Mallory's gaze drops to the cracked concrete beneath his feet, the cracks mirroring the fissures in his life. The neighborhood's quiet rejection is absolute, a collective turning away that speaks louder than any protest. As he reaches his doorstep, Mallory hesitates, fingers brushing the doorframe before retreating. The house feels like a cage, the walls closing in with memories of power lost and respect withdrawn. He steps back onto the street, the sun casting long shadows that swallow him whole. Sometimes, the loudest judgment is the one spoken in silence. The streets remember, and so do the people. Mallory's figure fades into the distance, swallowed by the neighborhood's quiet resolve. The camera lingers on the empty crosswalk, a symbol of the divide that no longer needs to be bridged. Mallory sits in a cramped office, the air stale and heavy, resume clutched in hands that tremble despite his effort to appear composed. Across from him, the interviewer, a black woman with sharp eyes and an unreadable expression, scans his document in silence. Her fingers tap the table, a slow, steady rhythm that amplifies the tension. She looks up, her voice cool but clear. "Your record here raises concerns. The community's trust has been shaken." Mallory's throat tightens. He forces a swallow, pride and desperation warring inside him. I was following orders," he manages, voice thin. His eyes flick to the window, where the city bustles on, oblivious to his struggle. The interviewer's gaze never wavers. "Orders don't excuse the harm caused. We need someone who understands accountability." The words land with finality, the pause that follows stretching, thick and unforgiving. Mallory's hands tremble as he folds his resume, the paper creasing beneath the pressure of his grip. He looks up, searching for understanding, for mercy, but finds only resolve. She stands, smoothing her skirt. "Thank you for your time. We'll be in touch." Mallory nods, voice barely above a whisper. "Understood." The interview is over before it truly began. He steps out into the hallway, the door closing quietly behind him. The corridor feels colder, emptier. He stares at the resume in his fist, then crumples it, the sharp crease echoing the collapse of his confidence. Down the hall, laughter drifts from another office, a reminder that life continues, indifferent to his loss. Mallory's shoulders slump as he makes his way outside, the weight of rejection settling deep. The job, the respect, the future he once took for granted, all slipping through his fingers, impossible to reclaim. Sometimes, The hardest battles are fought in silence, in rooms where pride and desperation collide, and only one can walk out whole. Elijah kneels in a patch of freshly turned earth, hands caked with soil, a gentle smile on his face as he guides a group of children in planting native flowers. The lot, once neglected and overgrown, is alive with laughter, hope, and the promise of something lasting. Volunteers move between rows, passing seedlings and watering cans, their movements easy and collaborative. A Latina teenager approaches, cradling a small sapling. She offers it to Elijah, her voice shy but proud. "For your next park," she says. Elijah accepts, his gratitude evident in the way he holds the fragile stem. Around them, elders share gardening tips, swapping stories of resilience and growth in the face of adversity. The garden becomes a living classroom, each plant a lesson in patience and renewal. Across the street, Mallory's house sits in shadow, the yard untended, weeds climbing the fence. He watches from behind a curtain, the sounds of community drifting through the open window, a reminder of what's been lost, what can't be reclaimed by force or authority. His presence is a ghost at the edge of celebration, unnoticed by those who have chosen to build rather than divide. Elijah moves from group to group, encouraging, teaching, listening. He kneels beside a young boy struggling to dig a hole, offering gentle guidance. "It takes time," Elijah says, "but roots grow deeper when you care for them." The boy nods, determination lighting his face. As the sun sets, the garden glows with new life. Neighbors gather to admire the transformation, some bringing food, others simply sharing in the joy. The sense of belonging is palpable, the old wounds softened by the act of creation. Elijah stands, brushing dirt from his hands, surveying the scene with quiet pride. In this reclaimed space, growth thrives where ego once ruled, and the seeds of change are planted for good. Elijah sits alone on a weathered park bench as dusk settles, the world around him softened by the gentle glow of streetlights and the hush of evening. He watches as families gather beneath the trees, children's laughter mingling with the last songs of birds. The air is cool, carrying the scent of earth and new growth from the nearby garden. He closes his eyes for a moment, letting the sounds and memories wash over him. His mind drifts to the struggles that shaped him, the early mornings when he was told to keep his distance, the subtle looks that questioned his presence, the quiet victories earned through patience and resolve. Each memory is a stone in the foundation of the man he's become. Opening his eyes, Elijah gazes at the sky, voice low and steady. "Change doesn't roar," he murmurs, words meant for himself as much as for anyone listening. It whispers. In every wing beat, every step forward, it lives in the courage to return, to teach, to hope. His tone carries the weight of hard-won wisdom, the kind that comes from enduring and overcoming. A sparrow lands nearby, pecking at crumbs left by a child. Elijah smiles, recognizing the bird as a symbol of resilience. Small, unassuming, yet persistent. He thinks of the children who now roam the park freely, the elders who share stories without fear, the neighbors who have learned to plant seeds instead of suspicion. A teenager walks past, pausing to offer a shy wave. Elijah returns, his heart lightened by the simple connection. The bench, once a place of solitude, now feels like the center of something larger, a community that has learned to listen, to heal, to move forward together. As night deepens, Elijah remains, the wisdom in his whisper echoing across the park, carried on the wind to those ready to hear. Morning breaks with a hush over the park, dew glistening on the grass as families gather near the new plaque. Elijah stands among them, binoculars in hand, his gaze drawn upward by a sudden flutter. A rare bird, his lifelong pursuit, lands atop the bronze, its feathers catching the light, colors vivid against the metal. Children gasp, their excitement bubbling over. Cameras flash, parents lifting little ones to see. The bird pauses, unhurried, as if claiming the space for all who once felt unwelcome. Elijah's heart swells with quiet pride. He lowers his binoculars, letting the moment imprint itself deeply, proof that patience and hope can bring even the rarest gifts. At the edge of the park, Mallory sits in his car, engine idling. He watches through the windshield as the crowd gathers, the laughter and shouts of joy drifting to him on the breeze. His face is unreadable, a mix of longing and regret. The bird's wings spread, and for a moment, Mallory's eyes follow its flight, tracing the arc of possibility he once tried to contain. The bird lifts off, soaring above the trees, its shadow gliding over the open gates and sunlit paths. Elijah smiles, the weight of years lifting from his shoulders. Around him, the community stands united. Elders, children, new rangers, and old friends, each one changed by the journey. The camera pulls back, capturing the park in all its renewed glory. The garden blooming, the plaque shining, the gates wide open. The rare bird circles once, then disappears into the sky, leaving behind a sense of wonder and belonging. Elijah turns to the children, inviting them to search the sky for the next marvel. The park, once a symbol of exclusion, now breathes with possibility, a place where every flight is a beginning, and every ending is just another chance to rise.